Hi, this is Matt with Bob Johnson's Computer Stuff. Today we're going to be doing a quick video on showing you how to determine if you should consider a Windows 10 upgrade. According to Microsoft, I'll show you right on Microsoft's website what the requirements are, and then I'll give you my recommendations for upgrading to Windows 10. Basically, Microsoft says you just have to have a 1 gigahertz or faster processor and 1 to 2 gigs of RAM, depending on which version of the operating system you install, and a 16 or 20 gig hard drive, depending on the hard drive space, depending on which operating system you're loading, and a graphics card that's capable of DirectX 9 or better. That's what Microsoft says will work. Now, just because that's what Microsoft says will work doesn't mean that you should do a Windows 10 upgrade just because your machine meets their minimum requirements. The minimum requirements is basically saying what you can physically get away with, what the software will allow you to install it on. But Windows 10 was designed for newer computers. I would personally recommend that if you're considering a Windows 10 upgrade, that you have an Intel Core i3 or better or equivalent processor, and preferably 4 gigs of RAM or more. To be able to tell what the specs of your machine are, you can open up the system properties page. There's a couple different ways to open up the system properties page. One of the quickest ways is to hit the Windows key and the pause break key on the keyboard. Or if you don't know which keys I'm referring to, you can click on the start button in the bottom left corner, go to where it says computer, right click it, and then click properties. If you're not running Windows 7 like I am on this computer, you can still get to the system properties page. The steps are a little bit different, but you can still get there. From here, you can see what processor you have installed, what amount of RAM you have installed, and what version of the operating system you have installed. Now, in this case, this is a CF31 Mark I. It has an Intel Core i5 processor running at 2.4 gigahertz. It has 4 gigs of RAM installed, and it's running a 64-bit operating system. It's running Windows 7 Pro, Service Pack 1, 64-bit. Now, even if your specs do meet the minimum requirements, or even if they do meet the suggested requirements that I have suggested, that doesn't guarantee that Windows 10 will work on your machine. If you want to see if your machine will work with Windows 10, what I would recommend you do is check your manufacturer's website to see if they support drivers for Windows 10. If they support drivers for Windows 10, chances are your machine will work with Windows 10. And if they don't, if it says has not been tested with Windows 10, which a lot of the computers that are over a year or two old, that's what they say, that's not a guarantee that it won't work either. That just means that the manufacturer will not provide support or drivers for your machine if you decide to go ahead and do the Windows 10 upgrade. Now, I would always recommend that whenever you're considering Windows 10 upgrades, you should always go out and look at some of the reviews of Windows 10, look at what some people think about it, and look at the different features and everything of it, and make an educated decision before you go ahead and decide to upgrade to Windows 10. Windows 10 does have its upsides, and it does have its downsides. It's going to be around for a good while. I know Windows 7 is going to be dropping support in 2020, but that's still a few years off. So if your machine doesn't meet the requirements or doesn't meet what I suggested, which is an i3 or better or equivalent processor, 4 gigs of RAM, I would suggest that you just stick with Windows 7 for now. You can always do the upgrade later. And if you're not sure if you should do it or not, even after watching this video, you can just send us an email. The tech support email here is tech_support@bobjohnson.com. Now, if you decide to go ahead and go with the Windows 10 upgrade, you can purchase a licensing for Windows 10 right on Microsoft's website, or you can go on Amazon and you can get it from Amazon. You can probably get it from Best Buy. You can get it from several different places. Where you get it doesn't really matter. I would always recommend that if you decide to upgrade to Windows 10, that you make a complete backup of your computer beforehand in case anything goes wrong. I'll go over that more in the next video. That is basically all you need to know about whether or not you should upgrade to Windows 10 or not. Windows 10 does have its upsides and downsides, and while they do say that you can run Windows 10 with a gigahertz or better processor and with 1 or 2 gigs of RAM, just because it can run it doesn't mean you should. It will physically run the operating system. It's just going to do it at a much slower rate, and it's not going to perform like it used to with your old operating system. It's just not going to work as well. That's why I recommend you have an Intel Core i3 or better processor or equivalent. They're newer, faster processors than, say, a Core 2 Duo or even one of the older Pentiums. They're faster processors. They can handle the Windows 10 operating system better. If you have any questions or comments on this video, or have any suggestions, just let us know. You can give us a call at our toll-free number of 877-202-7788, or you can send us an email at tech_support@bobjohnson.com. That's it for this video.